And you brought up a good point. I guess we might as well just dive into that part. You know, you're talking about, you know, gaining the proper skill sets that can be used in a variety of ways. And I feel like, you know, that's very important for independent musicians to be aware of and not allow themselves to just get super tunnel vision on one thing, because as we all know, the harsh reality is that it's very difficult to be able to generate, you know, the type of income that we all want to be able to generate as musicians. And so you want to be able to have multiple skill sets that allows you to be able to produce income and you know, you can fund your career but still have a life, you know what I mean, and not, you know, live your life where if it don't work with the music, then you're asked out, you know what I mean. And I know that's something that you wanted to go ahead and shed light on this call about that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a Nipsey Hussle line in one of his records. I think it was I'm blanking on the record, but I think it was the one with Game. He did a record with Game, and he said like starving artists ain't my style. That shit'll drive me insane. Yo, bro, that like hit. You know what I'm saying, for me,
Yeah.
because same thing. Like there was a point for me, and I know we like, you know, we'll probably get it at, you know, touch points on this at some point, but there was a point for me in my career where I'm like, okay, cool, like I'm checking off all these things that I've wanted to do, right, from a like a perspective of like a creative, a producer, like someone who like loves culture and loves like everything that it embodies. I'm like checking all these things off, but I'm seeing that from a financial perspective, there was no sustainability for me. Like there was no like steadiness. There wasn't really the growth that I was looking for per se. Like, yeah, for sure, I was getting money from, you know, specific, you know, things that I was doing in the space, right, in the production space. But for me, I'm like, yo, is that really how I foresee myself, you know, existing in this world? And the truth of it was no, you know. And I think a lot of that allowing myself to like to understand that was like, you know, allowing for me to grow. I think a lot of things kind of go into play with that as well, right? Like we're not in a space, bro, anymore where, like, for example, uh Just Blaze used to charge, you know, 100,000 a beat, if not more.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Like that was a thing, that was a real thing. And this was at the time where 100,000 wasn't even 100,000 now. 100,000 back then was probably like 300,000. I don't
Mhm.
know. You know, I'm not really sure in terms of like inflation, et cetera, but it had a lot more value. 100,000 was a lot more valuable, you know? And that was like normal. That was like the standard. It was like an industry standard. But like with digital age, all that changed. And I think for me, like I think I forced, like I personally saw, because when I wanted to get into the game, that's what I was thinking. Shit, I was even cool with like letting shit go for 25, because I'm like, if I could get a beat off for 25 and I sell 10 of them in a year, that's like an average of one a month, you know, missing a few, taking 2 months off. I'm like, that's 250,000. That's a lot of bread. Especially at that time. But what ended up happening is like digital came into play, right? Internet came into play. So if I want 25,000, but some kid in the middle of nowhere is willing to fucking give it to you for free because he just wants to hear somebody rap on his beat, it fucks the whole business model up. You know,
Mhm.
and that changes the complete, you know, that completely changes the industry of like, all right, cool. So now you got it. So now the business structure and the beat could be fired. You know what I'm saying? Like you could, you know, you could network your way into some rooms, and if the work is fire, the work is fire. But the industry changed. Like, who the fuck cares about you wanting 25,000 for a beat? Unless you have a name for yourself, right? Like, unless you're adding value apart from like the beat being fire, unless you're adding value. And this is at least from my perspective, right? And I just remember, like, I think there was a website called like SoundClick or some shit. It was like
Yes.
it was a producer website. You could literally go on there and download beats for free. You can go on there and lease beats. You can go on there and do all these things. And it's just like that was the new wave. So for me to kind of come in, I was trying to come in and like, grow my business at the time to like to be able to get to a point where like, yo, I could do 15, 20, 25,000 a beat. Like that's what I wanted to do. You know what I'm saying? And I think like I call like the tail end of it where I was still
Yeah.
getting, you know, a few $100. I might have got like 1,000 at one point for a beat, whatever it was, but it was like short lived because SoundClick came and like rappers didn't need they didn't need that. You know what I'm saying? They're like, well, they're buying it, they're fucking paid $5 online and got whatever, they're rapping on it.
Yeah, yeah,
Just
yeah.
that
And then
shit.
then being able to lease beats into that changed the landscape of how you make money as a producer.
As a producer, but you also got to think about it like at the time. rappers, like how the fuck were they getting shit off? You know what I'm saying? Like, so you got to think about it. Like, this was an era, like it was the digital era, right? So you could hear shit online, but like, you know, I don't think streaming services were out at the time. You know what I'm saying? So that wasn't available. So it's like the industry was in a place where they didn't even know how to fucking make money. Rappers didn't even know how to make money. You know what I'm saying? Like, realistically, they just didn't. They just didn't know how to make bread. And it was just like a weird space, but you know, like I would say that, like, you know, I would go as much to say that, like, if I was a little bit older, meaning that, like, if I grew up in an era where, like, I could be in a space, you know, competing with like the Just Blazes and the Alchemists and the fucking whatever it is, who knows? It might have been a different outcome. You know what I'm saying? Like, who knows? You know what I'm saying? Um, maybe or maybe not. You know, like, you know, whether my skill set, and that's another thing. I'm a firm believer in, like, I feel like you could train yourself to be the illest. Like, I don't think. You said, like, you just have to be dedicated, like, and I think that's part of that book that I mentioned, the mastery. I think it's just
Mastery. Yeah.
10,000 hours. Like, you dedicate 10,000 hours, you're gonna be good. Like, you're gonna be good at that. And I think, like, for me, like, my mindset was I was dedicated to committing those 10,000 hours. Like, I didn't have an issue with that, you know. So with that being said, like, who knows? But I think just where the industry was, and I just feel like the universe had other shit for me. Like, you know, whatever it was, it had other shit for me, and it did.
Yeah.
Realistically, like, I look at like how I felt at the time, and I was like, damn. And you know, committing like the hours, you know, the effort, the work, the thought, like the energy, and like seeing where I'm at now, like I'm not where I want to be, but I'm in, like, now to me it's like, all right, cool, like don't stop, keep going, at
Yeah.
least for where I'm at now.
Word, word. So yeah, I mean, you just intuitive. You were very intuitive with how you went about it, and you noticed, like that window, right? And I think that's having that awareness of knowing where you're at when you start, and being able to see the landscape of things, and making sure that if you're gonna start doing something, or you're gonna step into a certain field, and take on a certain craft, you become aware of where it's at, and if you see that it's in a space where it's in the process of evolving, that you don't latch on to the old model, because if you latch on to the old model, you're going to get left behind, or pretty quickly, especially now more than ever with the internet and how it's evolved over the last 10 to 15 years. So no, thank you for that insight.